What you see here is a company's typical inventory growth pattern over a 10-year period. I say typical because I have seen the same pattern in almost every manufacturing company that I have worked at, whether it be aerospace or medical devices. I've taken the liberty of layering on top of this inventory trend graph another graph line in green that represents the annual sales trend at that company. I show it tracking the inventory trend graph fairly closely because I have tracked the same sales inventory trend at the companies that I have worked at. The commonly held belief at these companies is that there is a normal linkage between sales increasing and inventory increasing to keep pace with sales. All too often, this causal connection is not questioned, even though it can mean millions of dollars in additional inventory each year. Obviously, this inventory equates to a lot of the company's cash being frozen in the form of difficult-to-move product or components, or eventually obsolete inventory that has to be written off. That money can always be better deployed on behalf of the company doing something else. When I discuss inventory with my employees or peers, I try to explain that we have an opportunity to decouple inventory growth from sales growth. I am an advocate of this because I have done this very thing, decoupling inventory growth from sales growth, at each of the last 4 companies that I have worked at. And I have accomplished this without having a negative impact on sales' ability to get out there and sell, which is always the first worry that sales has when we discuss reducing inventory. How this reduction in inventory can be accomplished is the subject of the rest of this presentation. There are 6 steps that I have found to be essential to pursuing inventory reduction. Actually, there are many more things that can be done, for instance, focusing on supplier agreements and the management of supplier performance. But for this bare-bones presentation, I will just focus on those steps necessary to get tangible reductions in inventory, which is a great start on the road to inventory optimization. We will cover the following steps in the process. Step number 1 is to gather your company's inventory data. Step number 2 will be to put together a cross-functional team focused on inventory reduction and then inventory optimization. Step 3 involves brainstorming what the team thinks historically or currently is driving inventory to go up. Step 4 looks at using an A3 template to capture all of the project's key elements. Step 5 is the setting up of monthly inventory team meetings with all of the cross-functional team members in attendance. And Step 6 is the important step of publishing the inventory reduction A3 to the company's management team and to the rest of the organization as well. So let's walk through the 6 steps in a bit more detail. The first step in getting our inventory reduction project off the ground is to gather monthly inventory data. You may ask why this is necessary if we know we have an inventory problem already. Why not just get on with it? The reason for gathering the data is so that we can understand the historic inventory trend, but more importantly, so that we have a baseline inventory number to work with going forward. If we are not measuring our inventory month to month, we won't know if we are making progress in reducing inventory or whether some categories of inventory are continuing to go up while others are going down, thus potentially canceling each other out from a total inventory standpoint. This is a typical you can't fix what you can't measure problem that we are tackling. As I state in the visual, you can use total, gross, or net inventory to measure overall inventory. If you want to get more granular with this and measure inventory for different categories, like raw materials, finished goods, and work in progress, or inventory associated with specific product lines, that is great too. Just remember that the more data you collect, the more you will have to analyze and maintain. I also mentioned that getting finance and accounting to assist with this is a good idea. One reason is that they are usually maintaining some of this data already. But the other important reason is to make sure what you track and report on going forward is consistent with what finance and accounting is using. There is nothing worse than telling senior management that the inventory reduction team is making great strides in reducing inventory, only to have your finance people contradict this. Once you have the data, you will need to use a spreadsheet program to maintain the data and to produce inventory trend graphs. Any spreadsheet program works for this purpose. For instance, Google Sheets, LibreOffice Calc, and of course Microsoft Excel. To keep the graphing simple, I would recommend graphing the data using line graphs. While we are at it, I would also strongly suggest that you get the same inventory data for 5 to 10 years back if you can. This 5 to 10 year backward look is another suggestion that might elicit a why bother response, but there is an important reason for this. Having multiple years of history enables you to get a picture of what has been going on with the inventory. Has it been increasing just recently? Has this been going on for 20 years? Have there been events in the past that have affected inventory spikes or troughs? All of this is potentially useful information for the team that you are going to assemble to tackle this many-headed creature. The second step is focused on putting together a cross-functional inventory reduction team. By cross-functional, I mean to include a representative from each part of the company that has a stake in the company's inventory. The short list should include sales, accounting and finance, operations, engineering, planning, procurement, and supply chain. Of course, who is included depends on the company's business model and sales and inventory operations planning strategy, or SIOP. You can also include warehouse, marketing, and whoever is in charge of any just-in-time program that directly supports customers. The intent here is to make sure you have inventory stakeholders from the parts of the company that will be impacted by inventory going up or going down. The rationale being that you need to get the buy-in of these functional areas before deploying actions that impact these areas. In addition, it is a great idea to have an inventory champion in each department to run interference for the inventory team when questions arise, which they will, to hold off negative influences that might impede the team's progress. You also need to develop what is called a team charter for the inventory reduction team. Here you can see a sample of what I have used multiple times as a team charter, which you can download at the highlighted link. The charter includes the overall goal for that year, the area, division, or department that will be focused on, the implementation team, spelling out the names of the individuals on the team, the stretch objectives, that is, the overall inventory objective broken down into specific elements or goals that are beneficial to the company, a brief explanation of what the inventory reduction opportunity represents, and then what I call primary goals for the team, like meet that year's inventory budget, improve procedures, etc. The last element here is to get senior management support for the inventory reduction team. This senior management support becomes critical later on in the process when you need someone on the senior leadership team to explain to senior management what the team is trying to accomplish, as well as to run interference if criticism is directed at the team for some reason, which doesn't happen too often, but it does happen. The senior manager also becomes the team's champion. Now that the inventory reduction team is assembled, it is time to have the team brainstorm what they consider to be the drivers of inventory growth at the company. The brainstorming process can be done in an office or meeting room where there is a whiteboard and everyone can fit into the room. I would suggest using an Ishikawa or fishbone diagram like the one that I am showing to capture the team's thoughts. There are no right or wrong ideas here, and all of the team's input should be captured without either critiquing the input or launching immediately into solving the drivers, which is a natural temptation for team members not used to participating in brainstorming sessions. You can also use a mind map to capture the brainstorming session, or just write the ideas up on the board and afterward either transcribe these ideas or take a picture of the board. After all of the inventory drivers have been captured, have the team choose 3 to 5 of the drivers that the team agrees should be tackled first to have the biggest impact on inventory. These drivers will become the focus of action items that the team will tackle. It is okay to include one easy-to-tackle driver in this list so that the team has an easy-to-achieve first win to chalk up as things move forward. Following our brainstorming activities, it's time to utilize an A3 template to capture all of the essential components of the inventory reduction initiative. The A3 is a lean Toyota Production System tool that has many uses in business, but is especially appropriate for our inventory reduction project. It consolidates on one page everything that is important about the project, from why we are doing this in the first place, to how we are tracking our progress to make sure we are achieving our goals. Here you can see a sample of a blank A3 template. It is made up of 8 elements: the name of the project, which shows up in the upper left-hand corner, the background of why this project is important to the company. Here you might incorporate what the company's material objectives are for the current year. The current condition, which states where we are at with inventory, inventory turns, obsolete inventory at the beginning of this project. The goal, which would state where we want the inventory level to be by the end of the calendar year, unless the team and management have determined that the goal is tied into a longer time horizon. The root cause analysis, which is where you can plug in the fishbone diagram that the team worked on. Countermeasures, which are action items with owners and dates that have come out of the brainstorming session or are subtasks that need to be addressed in order to achieve the overarching inventory goal. Effect confirmation is where you can plug in the graphs that you're using to monitor whether progress is being made with the inventory levels. And follow-up actions, which are things that don't require immediate attention, but are good to start work on soon and to keep track of. I would also note it is worth dedicating a meeting to educating the team about the A3 structure and the mechanics behind the A3 so that all of the team members are conversant with the A3 and why it is being used. There are many good publications and resources available on A3s, with the pictured Understanding A3 Thinking being one of the better ones that is readily available and won't break the bank. At this point, the A3 needs to be populated with all of the team members in agreement with the information that will show up on the A3, with special emphasis on the action items. This is also when someone or several team members need to be made responsible for updating the A3 and making sure it is kept up to date. This is also a skill-building opportunity for team members. Now we arrive at the mechanical, more repetitive part of the inventory reduction process, the monthly meeting. It is essential that the team meets, at a minimum, on a monthly basis to update the A3, go over progress and setbacks, and maintain the momentum and visibility of the project. In the beginning, more frequent meetings may be necessary to quickly address issues that arise in the early stage. I have found that meeting every 2 weeks does the trick. I would also advise taking attendance at each meeting, a sign-in sheet should be incorporated, and having someone assigned to take meeting minutes that are maintained on a shared drive and copied to all of the team members. This will help to ensure accountability and to drive home to all participants that this is not an optional effort, but one that will have high visibility with senior management, and thus a form of positive exposure for all participants. Finally, the A3 should be published to the company's management team each month, usually by the end of the first week of the new month. The A3 can be distributed via email or uploaded onto the company's intranet or SharePoint page. Putting up a hard copy in the team work areas, on a wall or bulletin board, should also be a priority since many employees will pay attention to these, especially those who are on the team. There is more than a bit of marketing involved with all of this, but this internal marketing is an important tool used to assure the team's success. Also, many companies have functional area walkthroughs to review each department's KPIs, or key performance indicators, and initiatives. This is a great opportunity to get the inventory reduction initiative front and center with the management team doing the review. After all of this work, the team's efforts and successes need to be celebrated. There are many ways to accomplish this, from a year-end review of the team's efforts with senior management in the form of a presentation, to making sure that the team participants get credit for their efforts in their annual performance appraisal. This will help to reinforce the importance of the initiative and at the same time provide positive reinforcement to the individual team members for the extra work that this effort has required. So let us quickly review the 6 steps. Step number 1 involves gathering the necessary inventory data and kicking off the monitoring of that data. Step number 2 is the task of putting together a cross-functional inventory reduction team. Step number 3 is getting the team to brainstorm the drivers of inventory growth for your company. Step number 4 deploys an A3 template to capture inventory reduction project essentials. Step number 5 is the setting up of monthly meetings with the team to update actions and share developing trends. Step number 6 is the publishing of the A3 to the company's management team and posting of a hard copy of the A3. And finally, repeat steps 4 through 6 going forward. There you have it, a streamlined roadmap for tackling what for many companies is their biggest investment and sometimes frightening liability. The methodology I've outlined in this video has been tested at a number of companies, and it consistently delivers positive results. What are you waiting for? Let the reductions begin.